Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're all having a great Sunday. Welcome to Alive. It's been so long since I've been on here and done anything, but I want to thank you so much for joining me. Hello, North of the Fray. Hey, Tanya. How are you? How is your evening going? Thank you so much for joining me tonight and for being here. It has been forever since I did a live, and it feels good to be back. How are you doing, and how's life been treating you? Let's talk about that before we go into discussing tonight's topic. I want to talk to you about the awakening, and that's one of the stages that we experience or we arrive at when we realize, like, oh, who is this person? Because the awakening of, your awakening from narcissistic abuse signifies something. And so I think it's important that we are able to determine, what does this signify? What does it mean? And from that point, be able to move forward and walk into what the next phase of our life is. Good evening, and thank you so much for being here. How are you doing? So that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. Hello, little bird, snares free or snare free. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, Danny. Hi, Tanya. Um, I don't want to cut up your name, but I see you there. Hello, Thriver. But thank you so much again. It's been a while, like I've been saying, since I did a live. Yeah, a lot has been happening, but I'm here. I shared with you in this community what was going on with my child, but I feel like we're in a much, much better place. And so I'm able to, spend more time with you and have more conversation with you so that we can continue to, so we can pick up where we were and move forward. So thank you so much for sharing some of your Sunday evening with me. I'm so happy to see you. You know, During this time that I haven't been here, before we get into the conversation, during the time that I've been missing in action as far as lives are concerned, I kind of was going through my own growth period, or a moment where I started just diving deeper in myself and start asking myself some pretty hard questions about, like, what is the end goal for you? What is it that I really want to bring to the table within this community? Because there are so many videos that will educate you about what a narcissist is. What do they do? What can you expect as far as a hoover? How do you beat the hoover? And a lot of the times I feel like, we don't focus on ourselves so much and what our needs are. Because at the end of the day, your needs are more important than, figuring out or discerning the narcissist as much, because we already know who they are. There's so much information. But now that we have the information, what do we do with what we have? What do we do with all of this knowledge? Because I know the saying goes that knowledge is power, but knowledge is only power when you know how to apply it. When you take that knowledge that you've received and you actually put it into action, that's where your power is. And so that's the difference. And, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about somewhat, because there's so many things for us to discuss tonight. And, it's also going to be, just really us figuring out. And I want you to ask yourselves, like, what is it for me next? What do I want from my life after this? And what were my dreams and my goals and my aspirations before this person ever came into my life? And how do I take all of those things that I had, so much hope for? Because let's not forget that when you are in these relationships or situations, transactions, whatever you want to call it, they rob you of your hope. They rob you of your peace. They rob you of your dreams. They rob you of your desire. And a lot of the times when we step away from it, you just feel hopeless, like all hope is gone. So what is it that you do? What do you do with, the experiences that you have? Because when you awaken, a lot of us, and, when we awaken, we also awaken to the fact that, as far as when it comes to narcissistic abuse, it's really good versus evil. It's really the light versus dark. And then we realize that, oh, it's not even light versus dark, but it's God's truth against what the enemy has been putting up against you all of this time. And so that's what many of us come to the realization of. And so now that you know this, friends, what are we going to do? How do we transition with the knowledge that we have and become all that God already knows that you are? Because here's one thing that I really want you to understand is that there's not a single person that was born. There's not a single person that is alive who, when they came onto the earth, when they were born, their purpose wasn't born with them. Everybody's purpose is born with them. And what I also want to say is that when you are born, your purpose or your assignments are already waiting for you. So it's like these two things want each other. But now how do I get my mind right so that I can lay hold of this promise, this dream, and this vision that God has for me? How do I get to that place? And so a lot of the times after we're in this relationship, and let me just say hello. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me tonight. Hi, and good evening, and thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday night to spend with me. So, what I want to say is, as far as some of the things that you're experiencing, it will look like, oh, my life is actually falling apart, right? It will feel like, oh my God, everything is just going haywire. And I kind of felt like that a little bit towards the beginning of this year. It just felt like, or from the beginning of this year. And it's not that, it was just like, I think I was also awakening to something else. But it feels like, everything is falling apart and I can't get a hold of anything. I can't understand what's going on. Every time I take a step forward, anytime I get some type of breakthrough, I'm being pushed back again. And this is kind of like what it's like when you're with these narcissists. You try to take two steps forward, especially once you're away and and you've started the process of at least catching your breath, and now you're starting to figure what's going on or what happened to you while you were in that situation. And then now they've been stalking you like they always do, watching you and just keeping their eyes on you. And now they see, oh, okay, they're getting better, they're doing better, and so it's time for me to show myself. And there they come with that hoover. Now the hoover is always to throw you off. The hoover is never because this person has changed who they are. It's never because they want to partake in life with you or be better better for you. It's got nothing to do with anything benefiting you, but it is all about serving their own needs. And so what's going to happen is, you'll ask yourself those questions and you will always wonder like, hey, what is going on? But here's the thing, a lot of the times it feels like you're in a downward spiral. But I want to ask you this because I had to ask myself this question is like, could it possibly be that the pieces of our lives are coming back together? And I know that may sound kind of crazy, like, hold up, Joy, because like it doesn't feel like it. And I know, like I just said, like I was right in the midst of it myself. But it really feels sometimes like, everything is falling apart and I can't catch my breath and I can't see my way through this, and I'm blind because now they're trying to come back, because now you're getting the hoover, because now you're actually awakening to another level of who you are. It's another level of who you are. And so, when I was considering this for myself, and I was praying about it, like, what's going on? And what he simply said to me is that you can't pour old wineskin into, or you can't pour old wine into new wineskin. There's some experiences and there's another level of you that you are called to. And this is why you awaken. Because let's make no mistakes that when you were created on purpose and you were created in purpose, right? And so there is some growth that has to come from you. And part of what you go through when you feel like everything is falling apart, it's important for you to remember, and this is one lesson that I had to catch on to, is that anytime a rose is being pruned, anytime, a gardener is pruning his roses or whatever, that's when he's closest to the vine. And so when you may feel like I'm alone and I'm confused and I'm frustrated and I can't take it, remember that the gardener is real close to you. And so while you feel alone, you're really not alone. because now it's time for you to enter into a new dimension of who you are. It's time for you to walk closer to, fulfilling your call in life, your purpose, and just discovering more about yourself. And so this is what this becomes, or this becomes part of your journey. And so, I just want to say that to you. Hey, Tanya, thanks for joining. Hello, little bird, and congratulations. I wanted to bring up that comment because I think I personally enjoy sharing, or just seeing your responses, or just letting us know that, hey, I'm 2 years narc free. And so we applaud you and we celebrate you, and we're thankful that, you know what, you were able to stay 2 years narc free. That is a very big accomplishment. So congratulations to you. I was just trying to link this so that I can get all the comments from Facebook as well as YouTube. So just give me a second. Okay, that should work now. But yeah, we were having this conversation that's, about what is next? What do I do with next? What do I do with the experiences that I've had? And so, before we can take that next step, there's always going to be a part where you're going to have to be emptied with what is on the inside of you. Narcissists have they have this ability to really discern who a person is. Now we remember and we know, and I call them soul hunters, because the way they operate is so very predatory, because they know how to read people. They know what your weaknesses are from afar, and they know what to ask you, how to tap into your emotions, how to pull those things out of you. They're predators. They've been doing this since the beginning of time. And when I say the beginning of time, their entire lives. So it's just somebody skilled at what they do. And so they just continue to show up and do those things. But here's the thing that you must always remember, is that before you met them, you had a purpose. Even when they leave, you still have a purpose. No matter what happens, you still have a purpose. And it's so important that you don't lose sight of you. And so for myself, it reminded me it reminded me of my journey when I was absorbing so much information on videos and wanting to know all this and all that and all these different things. But it took me having a moment, just to be like, hold up, but what's going on with me? Because I was getting angrier and angrier the more I found out that, hey, this is how this person is. There's nothing that's going to change about them. This is just how they are. And to me, that didn't seem very fair, to just say this is how they are. Okay, but I'm still hurt. And so while I may have had the information, I didn't have the healing. While I may have known, their traits and their behaviors and their characteristics, I was still hurting. I still needed something more. And so this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you. And I feel like, it's important that as much information as you absorb about them, it's also important that you take a moment to ask yourself, what is it that I truly need in this moment? And begin to feed yourself, as well as, getting your information or your help for yourself. You still have a soul. It doesn't matter how wounded your soul is, because, like, listen, there are soul hunters, right? But you still have a soul. It may be crushed, it may be bruised, but we're always going to remember that bruised heels crush serpents' heads. You're going to overcome this, but it's going to start with your mind. And so for me, that's where it was like, I can't continue to ingest this information about them, because I feel like it's putting a pause on my own healing. When we get involved with these people, it's our mind. Our mind is the very first place that they assault. They tap into your mind and begin to feed you whatever it is that, they know that you need. They've been mirroring you. And it's not that they've just been mirroring you, but they've also been following other people. You're not the first victim. You are not going to be the last one. They have history. They have a whole resume. They have a whole narcissistic harem. They have a whole love cult. They have shelved many people. So they know what they're doing. They know your type of personality. These type of things will impress you. So while it may be that they are mirroring you, they're also feeding you what they've learned along the way. And so that's why sometimes the connection can even be stronger. And it's, that familiar spirit that, oh, I've been here before. And you got to also be careful when you start meeting people and you start engaging with them and you feel like, oh, this person, I kind of feel like I've known this person. When you get that feeling about, oh, I feel like I know this person, it's important that you pump the brakes a bit and start asking yourself. Because what happens sometimes is that it might be that familiar spirit that we're picking up on. And it's not that, it's not that you've met this person or, there's any closeness, but there'll be things that are, present within a familiar spirit that you're able to identify with. And that's why you feel that closeness. And so it's important that when you get that feeling with somebody, you start to ask yourself, are we moving too fast? Are there any red flags? How am I feeling? Because sometimes our body is going to let out signs that this person isn't right for me. And you've got to be so in tune with yourself. You've got to know yourself and you've got to be able to discern. People say test the spirit by the spirit, but you got to be able to discern the person, you got to discern the spirit, you got to just know so that you don't continue to put yourself in situations that will actually, push you back further. Because it's one thing when you have to come out kicking and screaming and fighting for your life and trying to recover that soul hurt, you already know this is not easy. It is a lot of work. And to go through it again, nah. This is what we're not going to do, and this is what we don't want to do. And so when you start feeling like, I feel like I've known this person my whole life, oh, it feels like, no, pause. And now start to ask questions. Start to, put a cap on some things and, slow things down and really engage. Because who doesn't want to be in a good relationship? Who doesn't want to have a good friend? Who doesn't want to feel like my work environment is wonderful? But you got to ask yourself some questions like, hey, is this really right for me? Is this person really, my person? Ask yourself, pause. And one of the biggest things is pray about it. Pray about it. And it's important. Like, it's so important. I think for me, I got to the point where I was like, listen, my heart can't take another disappointment. My heart can't take another heartbreak. Guys, I just can't. I can't. I really can't. Not another time. And so I said, like, before I even consider taking somebody's number, before I even consider calling somebody, before I even consider going on a date with somebody, I'm gonna have to pray about this. And until I get my answer, I'm not even gonna move, because that's how serious I am about it. Like, I can, there's something about being on that floor where you're in your face, like, Lord, this hurts. God, take away this pain. Lord, help me breathe. Because sometimes let's be real, sometimes you feel like I can't even breathe. And so you've got to really fortify yourself, guard yourself. Our boundaries are wonderful and excellent, but it's also good, to take stock of your boundaries, because what you start off with is not what you're always going to end up with. And that's because you grow as a person. And it's important that you grow. Your growth is very important. So be sure that you're doing things along the way that honor you, that honor the purpose or the creation or, the reason why you're alive. One reason why I wanted to talk to you about the awakening of you is because, like, I was going through, in fact, I had the Bible app playing one night, and it got to I believe it was Psalm 26, or maybe even Psalm 22. I can't remember right now. But what it was saying is that, we have to seek out the mysteries of God. And I was like, hold up, seek out the mysteries of God. Because, then I thought about the parables. God didn't just put things out in the parables, or Jesus, when he spoke the parables, they weren't just, it was like, why are you going around the bush? You're talking about the farmer, the wheat, and the tares, the seeds. Why are you doing it like this? Because it's not up to us to seek out the message. It's to seek him so that we can find out what is he saying? What does this mean? And he's going to translate that information to us, right? So we are to seek out the mysteries of God. And I was like, hold up, but all this time, I've been going deep and trying to seek out the mystery of the narcissist. I've been trying to seek out how they think, how they do this, how they do that. But if we would seek out the mysteries of God, He would also just reveal the truth to us from the beginning. And, and this is why the awakening, or your awakening, is important, because as you continue to grow, as you continue to move forward, because to some degree we all have some level of awareness of the narcissist. Otherwise we wouldn't be where we are at this moment. But it's important that as much as you want to know about that, it's you got to go back and seek out the mysteries of God so that He can start speaking to you. There is no way that you're going to get to that heavenly version of yourself, which is your most significant state as a person, without His guidance, without Him telling you, hey, this is what I see you as, my son or my daughter. There is a version of you that He wants to introduce you to. And it's important that to get to that, you actually tap into Him. We can't tap into the narcissist and get to that place or to that version of who he sees us as by continuing to seek out the mysteries of the enemy. Sometimes that will hold us bondage. Sometimes that will, keep us stuck with this anger. And for me, it was like, okay, so this person from day one, you couldn't stand me. From day one, you had an agenda against me. Oh, okay. So from day one, I was like your option. From day one, you already were talking to somebody else and you thought, and how people devalue you and degrade you and diminish who God says that you are. And a lot of the times, I would feel like I'm just getting so frustrated by looking at things from this perspective. And I had to turn all of that and go back and say, okay, now who do you say that I am? I had to seek out that mystery because I was getting angry. And so, what happened? In that moment where I was like just furious, like, God, do you see what your son did to me? Like your dusty son. And I was just going on and on and on. Like really, my mouth had no filter, right? I was keeping it real because my pain was real. Like that's just what it was. And so what he said to me is, if you don't stop this, you're going to be on the receiving end of my wrath also, because you are going down a path that is not for you. And he said, take your hands off of this and leave this alone and make room for my vengeance. Many times we want to see, what is their karma? When are they going to get their karma? But in order for us to fully transition away from this, we've got to take our eyes off of that. Because if we keep our eyes focused on, hey, this is what is happening. And, okay, so the new supply has got my promise. Oh, okay, so the woman that he was playing me with, the woman that, he was talking to, the woman that he was doing, they've moved. Okay, that's their business. They've already, listen, seed time and harvest. You reap what you sow. You cannot take a child of God. You cannot take another person and think that you can treat them any kind of way, that there is going to be no retribution. First of all, God's word doesn't only just say that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. God will also leave 99 of the flock to find one of you. That is how valuable you are. There is nothing and nobody that can diminish that. So when they tell you that, yeah, I didn't care, whatever, and I'm moving on, like, look at us over here, we're just skipping off into happiness. And okay, that doesn't mean that God's not watching. Sometimes he wants us to put our focus so much on him that we don't even care about what is going on the outside, because now I'm seeking those things that are above and not beneath. I'm pressing towards the mark of a higher calling of God in Christ Jesus. And I was like, God, but this just doesn't feel right, And he said, I'm the God who makes all things new. So are you going to trust me? Are you going to let go of what you are holding on to? Because you're never going to fully awake. You're never, and we can talk about the awakening, but I want you to understand that your awakening is really you getting a clear revelation of who you are in God. And he begins to download to you or speak to you where he is taking you, and you focus your eyes on that. Totally getting away from the things that will take you, that can sometimes hinder our growth. It can sometimes hinder us, moving forward, because I can't let go of this pain. I can't let go of this disappointment. I can't let go of this sorrow. Oh, but my heart still hurt. Yes, your heart still hurts, but you know what? He's a healer, he's a restorer, and he's a redeemer. He's done it before. For many people, he's done it for you at other points in your life. So we can trust him to continue to do those things as we move forward. Another thing is that, we run into the danger of conforming to the patterns of the world. We keep looking back. Okay, now here we go. We got Lot's wife. Like, are you going to trust me? Do I have your heart completely as they move forward, as we move forwards? And so, where is your focus? I don't want you to miss out on opportunities that God has for you to continue to grow, on opportunities that life is going to present you because you're still looking back, because your focus is on there. I want you to get all the information that you can get, learn as much as you can, but don't just hold on to that knowledge, because knowledge is, yes, they say knowledge is power. Again, knowledge is only power when you begin to apply it. You can have all the information in the world. You can read every book on what is a narcissist, what is a sociopath, what is a psychopath, and how do I beat them in this thing. But until you actually start walking that thing out, you are powerless, and you are going to continue to be, they say we perish because of lack of knowledge. You're still going to perish because you are not applying what you know. When you have that knowledge and you take that step, when you have that knowledge, and even if you're just dipping your toe in the water, it's an act of faith. It's an act of saying, okay, I'm gonna forget those things that are behind me. You're telling yourself, okay, God, you make all things new. I'm a new creation. You're telling yourself those things and you're edifying yourself, but you are also putting your faith into action and you're moving forwards. When we don't do that, and there's, one thing is that you got to resist that urge, because another way that you get sucked back, and I want you to consider this, another way that you get sucked back and held in a holding pattern of seeking these things, seeking the mysteries of the enemy versus seeking the mysteries of God, is where you find yourself like, listen, I need to continue to know, okay, what did this person say about it? What did that person say? When one person has told you the truth, they've told you the truth. And that truth must make you free. You have that information. Now let's take another step in a different direction, because we don't want to conform to the patterns of just continuing, to feed what hurts us, continuing to feed more, to continue to just get more information that you already have. Now, my friends, my brothers and my sisters, we got to start taking those steps forward. And you don't walk at anybody's pace. You can't look at where I am and say, well, okay, if I do that, I'm just going to get, no, your path is going to be different from mine. But what you got to remember is to walk at the pace of grace. Now, the pace of grace for you is always going to be based on what God already knows that you can handle. For me, why this was such an important conversation, and I remember sharing it with Tanya. Hey, everybody. Hello, Coach Natisha. Hey, Miss Henry. Hey, Solomon. There's some new cake downstairs, by the way. Um, but listen, I had to ask myself, like, what do you really want? Because, you know, during this time that I really haven't done any lives, I was really trying to figure out, how do I help? How do I help you move your life forward? Because I wanted to be part of a solution, not a problem. I wanted to be able to help you transition from where you are into who you truly are, into who God already knows that you are. Excuse me. Into who God already knows that you are. Okay, I'm back. Whew, my throat just went tight. But listen, you got to transition. to who God knows that you are. Okay, Lord Jesus. Also remember that, like, we live in a narcissistic society. Oh, and a lot of what they're going to tell you is not for your benefit. And this is why it's important not to conform to the patterns of this world. You are going to remain in a stagnant state. They're going to keep you in a holding pattern. And we must resist this at all costs. You've got to resist the urge not to move. You have to continue to transfer. When you come here, you're walking through the valley of the shadow of death. You don't walk alone. You walk at the pace of grace, and that is unique for you. I was sharing with Tanya the other day about my own journey, and I was like, girl, can you believe it took me 31 years? 31 years, 3 decades plus one, 31 years to be able to talk about my childhood without crying, without breaking down. And I was like, I don't want to see anybody in our community spend so much time, decades of their lives, in a holding pattern. I made the worst choices for my life. I made decisions from a broken place. I missed opportunities of a lifetime because I was in that. And it's not to say that because God, hey, He's a restorer, right? We know He's a redeemer. But I just don't want you to miss what's for you. I don't want you to miss what's for you, or to take the long road, because you don't have to. Continue to focus and keep your eyes on the prize. The prize is your overall healing. And as you continue to heal, and as you continue to move forward, because you got to remember that you moving forward, thank you so much for this. Thank you, uniquely made. Um, as you continue to move forward, right, you're strengthened, not only just in your natural realm or your natural self, but also in your spiritual self. So you've got to continue to move forward, and it's painful, but the truth makes you free. It sets you free, it makes you free, and that's how you begin to move forward you know and so you got to take that step, and you've got to know that the person that you see yourself as right now is, there's so many levels to you, and there's so much out there waiting for you. And you've got to believe that this is your portion, and you continue to move forward. Um, if you conform, or if you allow some of the feelings that we experience to hold you back, essentially what you're going to be doing is just buying into a corrupt society, or a corrupt narcissistic society, and its standards and what it says. And so you never really become, because when you subscribe to something that's corrupt, let's think about our relationships with these narcissists. They're corrupt. And because they're corrupt, they influence you, or they corrupt you too. Now, that doesn't mean that you become them, but you become a compromised version of who you are. You're never fully who you can be. You are a compromised version. You're compromised because of your health. You're compromised because of the way you see yourself. There's nothing worse than not being able to see yourself. And your awakening really starts when you start to see yourself. When you start to see, oh, okay, not only are we going to tell ourselves that no weapon formed against me shall prosper, no longer are we going to tell ourselves that, hey, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, but hey, I am the apple of his eye. I'm hemmed in his garment. I'm secure. That's what being hemmed in his garment says. I'm secure. So you have that protection. He goes before you. He goes with you. He goes behind you. So you're completely covered. You know, there isn't anything that he wouldn't do. He brings light into darkness for you. He will climb a mountain for you. He will walk on water to get to you. He will do whatever it takes. He will part red seas for you. He will give you manna. He will lead you by fire at daytime. There's nothing that can separate us from him. That's how valuable you are. And so this whole compromise version of ourselves is what we have to start healing. and what we have to start focusing on, because everything that we've bought into or that we listened to always degraded us and diminished us and took us to a lower level of who we truly are. And it's become so much crazier because society continues to feed, or to feed into those things. But I want to share one of my favorite quotes with you, and it's from Victor Hugo, and he says that all the forces of the world are not as powerful as an idea whose time has come. All the forces of the world are not as powerful as an idea whose time has come. It's always a good idea to choose yourself. It's always a good idea to say, I'm going to continue to ignore this snark. It's always a good idea to say that, you know what? I'm blessed in the city and I'm blessed in the field. It's always a good idea to say that I'm the head and not the tail. That's what Victor Hugo said. But what Jeremiah said is that, for I know the thoughts that I have for you, declares the Lord. Thoughts and plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. That's another good idea. That's another good thing for you to lay hold on. Lay hold on to the promises as you continue to transition into who God already knows that you are. Your awakened self is a beautiful version of you, because now you're able to take the shambles of everything. You're able to take the disappointment that you experience. You're able to take the hurt that you experience, because you know what comes with it is a level of maturity. And I'm not saying that you're suddenly just some King Solomon type of person, like just wise and everything, but you have some knowledge, you have some insight, you're more discerning, you're more awake in the spirit. So you can take your disappointment, you can take the rejection, you can take the whatever your feelings are, the abandonment, the things that we don't always want to own up to, the things that we don't want to say. And it's hard to say those things because, again, we have a narcissistic society that tells you like, oh, well, your childhood trauma, this, and, one is almost victim shame, but you got to ask what's their agenda and who sent them. That's why, you also got to be careful and know the things that trigger you, because there's some posts. I remember seeing a post the other day on Instagram, and I went in, right? Because first of all, the lady was like, you people who like coloring books are just avoiding dealing with your trauma. First of all, listen, I like coloring books, and I don't want those adult coloring books. I want the one from the dollar store that has little princesses, and I get my wax crayons. Yes, I'm telling on myself, but this is what brings me peace sometimes. It allows me to just to when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm able to just go and get, not distracted, but start, while I'm relaxed, I can start setting things in perspective. And I'll have my coloring book and my notepad next to me so that as I just, relax, I'm able to start, oh, okay, this is the thought that came to my mind. This is a feeling that I'm feeling frustrated. So I'm going to write frustrated on the paper, and I'm continuing to color. Another thought will come up and I write it down. And it helps me set things in perspective. So she was just saying it's a distraction. And I was like, first of all, who sent you, sis? Because no, it's not a distraction. And there were so many people in the comments who were saying, oh, but I like to color and I feel attacked. And hi, Allison, thanks for joining. I feel attacked because, hey, I love to color, and this helps me and it also soothes me. But there were people in the comments who were like, oh, okay, so what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, you're supposed to just continue to color. Hello? Stop letting people tell you what you can and cannot do. What works for them may not work for you. What works for you doesn't have to work for them. So it's okay for you to own your own truth, but own what is real to you. You've got to get in touch with yourself, and you've got to focus on you to the point where, okay, that's what's happening over there. Okay, I'm fine right here where I am because I'm working on me. And to say working on me, I don't want it to sound like you're a project, but you've got to be comfortable in your own skin, because you're going to be in your own skin your whole life. Like I told you, it took me 31 years to deal with my childhood issues. For 31 years, I was uncomfortable in my own skin. For 31 years, I wanted to be a wallflower. For 31 years, I just wish I could disappear. Nobody would see me. Within those 31 years, there was suicide attempts. Within those 31 years, plenty poor decisions. I mean, even deciding to marry somebody, but doing it from such a broken place and thinking, well, eventually things will get together and it'll, no, they just don't get together. We're just, covering them up. But going back to what I was talking about, your feelings, like, I feel, like I'm carrying a seed of shame. I'm carrying a seed of guilt. I'm carrying a seed of regret. Sometimes we regret the choices that we make. Why didn't I see the red flags? Oh, I did see the red flags, but I explained them away. I chose to close my eyes. And we start blaming ourselves for these things. But you also have to extend some grace to yourself because you also need to have peace within yourself. Yourself has to be at unity with you. You've got to be able to talk to yourself kindly because everything in you is listening to you. So if all you are ever doing is belittling your own self, it's almost like you become your own enemy. How are you going to grow? How are you going to start falling in love with yourself? How are you going to transition? And, if we continue to do those things. So again, it's always a good idea to speak kindly to yourself because yourself is listening. But I'm talking about these seeds because you have now the ability to take those seeds and put them in the dirt. And for some people, it really helps to actually do something that symbolizes a burial of those feelings, a burial of those emotions, a burial of, the disappointment, the rejection, the abandonment, the sexual abuse, the financial abuse, the physical abuse, whatever it is. You have the ability to now just bury those things. You have the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to take this seed, accept the seed fall to the dirt and die. It can't bring forth life. And so I took my disappointment. I took the rejection. I took the abandonment. I took the self loathing, the shame, and the regret, all of those things. And I just got to the point where I said, I'm tired. I can't do this anymore. I'm frustrated. And if something doesn't change, I'm just gonna have to take myself out because I can't live in this skin anymore. You can't pour new wine into old skin. There was nothing that could be poured in me until what was already in was pushed out. And so I took those seeds and I buried them. I made a conscious decision. I'm going to let these go. And that doesn't mean that I just said, oh, I'm going to let them go. And immediately I felt okay. But my part of that conscious decision that you make is that, you know what? There's going to be more steps that are required. I may have to go to therapy. I may have to go to coaching. I may have to, put these things, walk in self love, practice self love, find new hobbies. Not necessarily that you need distractions, but you need to create new experiences for yourself. What I called it was making love to myself. And, when I told my girlfriend, she was like, "Girl, you so nasty. You really doing this?" And I was like, "Sis, no." But I'm making love to myself. Self love is a journey, and it starts by making love to yourself. What do I mean? You start doing things that you enjoy, and you continue to do those things that you enjoy. You continue to open yourself up to new opportunities and new experiences, and you begin to start talking to yourself kindly. You begin to start taking yourself out. If you begin to, and taking yourself out, I'm not talking about that you need an elaborate date. I'm just going to go buy an ice cream cone and go for a walk because this brings me peace. I'm just going to go, and lift some heavy weights in the gym because I enjoy that. I'm going to go hiking. I'm going to go skating. I'm going to go fishing. I'm going to go swimming because I'm going to get my coloring book and I'm going to spend time in this. That's how you make love to yourself. We make love to people that we love, well, for the most part. But and it brings an intimacy. Now we are creating intimacy with ourselves. For some, it's going to be, I'm going to get into my word. I'm going to get into journaling. I'm going to join this group. I'm going to, do different things. But that's the process of making love to yourself. And before you know it, you begin to realize that, oh, I actually like me. I enjoy this peace. I enjoy, my own company. And as you begin to do those things, you start putting a different value on who you are. But now that you value yourself differently, you're going to require you're going to have a new level of standards. And your standards are going to come with new boundaries. And as you continue to make love to yourself, you're going to continue to learn yourself at a different level, and you're going to know these are the things that I enjoy. So whenever something comes, that is contrary, something comes that is contrary to your peace, because you are so in tune with yourself, you're able to identify those things and say, hold up, this is really not for me. Hold up now. I was doing okay until this man came into my life. I was doing okay until this sister came over here. And suddenly my body, something about me just feels off. But because now we are guarding ourselves and now we're being mindful, because remember, just because something feels familiar, just because something may sound like it's good, it could just be that familiar spirit. And so we got to pump the brakes and now hold up. What's going on here? And start asking those questions. And I really want to stress that to you, because at the end of the day, you want to have a full life. And here's one thing that I want to mention is that sometimes, because of the disappointments that we experience, right, you end up feeling like, you know what, I don't even want a relationship. And I'm going to be honest, like, I kind of I'm at that point somewhat, like, I ain't even beat God, your sons, they ain't even worth it. Like, for what? But here's the thing. Your life, it has purpose and it has meaning. There is somebody there. And I don't want to think that the current climate, as far as the dating and the relationships and these narcs that are out there, is what is going to be the standard, because then no, who wins at the end of the day? There is somebody for you, and I don't want you to lose hope. So even now, I'm kind of talking to myself. But here's the thing. You want to be able to say, like, oh, okay, this is what I want, but this person isn't giving it to me. Or you're able to, because you don't want to go too far in too deep, that, hey, oh my God, I'm back at square one again. You know what I'm saying? So really be sure that you take the time to know you, and to really spend time with you and know these are my standards. And if they can't meet it, then that's just their business. It's got nothing to do with you, because that's just your standard. Nobody has the right to tell you what's too much. What do you mean too much? No, you are not enough, and that's perfectly fine. Because don't ever let people, and I'm so, oh, thank you, Cat BX, I appreciate that. Don't ever let this toxic society tell you that, hey, you need to be in the numbers, that, hey, you need to be, you, in order for you to get this type of person, this is what you need. No, all of that is lies. You need to be an honest person. You need to be a person that walks in integrity. And before you can even really make, this is my opinion, before you can really make some wise decisions about who you are choosing to be with, it's important that you awaken to who you are. Because when you awaken to who you are, you know who you are. Not only do you know who you are, you know your purpose. When you know your purpose, you don't play about yourself. And this is why I was like, God, I ain't even worried about your sons anymore, because he just dusty down here. And I ain't even beat, because I've realized, okay, this is who you say that I am. And so I can't play with that person anymore. So it doesn't matter who comes and says this, but, like, I'm just going to be testing the waters over here. I'm going to be doing these things over here. You're just an option to me. You're part of the number. Okay, that's fine, because you haven't discovered your purpose. Because people who know their purpose don't play with themselves. And so when you walk into that, that awakened state, and you begin to pursue yourself at another level, like, everybody wants to pursue, like, the dating thing, like, oh, I'm going to pursue this person. Oh, should women pursue? No, pursue yourself. Pursue yourself. And in order to pursue yourself, pursue God, because that is the revealer of who you are. And, I know God is not for everybody, right? People have different religions. But this is just what I do here. This is who I believe in. So this is who I'm going to talk about, right? And so, and the way my faith is set up is that he is the King of Kings. He is the Lord of Lords. The earth and everything in it belongs to him. He is the creator of all things. He's the keeper of all time. So nobody can really tell you what is what, because it doesn't matter. And this is going back again to when we talked about karma. It doesn't really matter what they say. what they say is so insignificant, it's so inconsequential because they're not your gods. And when you start waking up to who he says that you are, you're just not going to have that kind of time anymore. you know and I want I was just thinking, like, it was on Friday night. We were at Solomon's Live, faith-based workplace, and we were all hollering and having such a great time. If you haven't been to his lives, you really have to go. I mean, it's a riot. We have so much fun there. But he was talking about everybody's businesses, and people were sharing their plans and what they wanted. And I was like, look at the goodness of God. Look at everybody who has something on the inside. Everybody is carrying a seed. Everybody is carrying a seed. Now, your seed, again, we got to go back to the analogy of the wineskin. We cannot pour new wine in old wineskin. And so I had to release that seed that I was carrying, the seed that I was just dragging along with me over and over again and just refusing. Like, y'all, I was refusing to let go of these things. And it wasn't even that it was a connection that I had made, but it hit me one day and it was just like, except the seed fall to the ground and die, nothing can come forth. It can't bear forth fruit. And so I released it, and I was like, the releasing was, okay, I'm taking my hands off of this, and I don't know how to do this because I like to pick things back up. But I need you now to teach me, show me what it means to keep my hands off of this. I release this to you. And I said, out, show me how to walk this out because this is new. And the one thing about life sometimes is that there is no frame reference for where we are and where we want to get. And so this is where that seed, also becomes a seed offering that says, like, listen, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to put this here at your feet, and I'm going to let you do whatever you do. And you know what? He comes and he nurtures that seed. He comes and he nurtures your disappointment. He comes and he nurtures your broken heart. He comes and he nurtures the rejection, the abandonment, the isolation, the devalue, the discard, all of those toxic things that we've been carrying. And then the seed that is in you begins to spring forth to life. He makes all things new. He makes all things new in his time. To everything, there is a time and a season. You know, Many times we think that, and we will say, like, oh, you know what? The ark did this, where's their karma? Okay, but they did it in the winter time. There are seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall. There are seasons. Maybe it's not the season for that. And so you can't sit around and wait for that season and miss what's happening in your own season. And so that's why we take our eyes off of those and we put our eyes, we look to the hills from where comes our help, so that we can begin to transition to the new level of ourselves. And we begin to continue to grow, we begin to continue to evolve into who we can be and who we already are. You know what's so interesting is I was reading Genesis the other day, and I was just like, it almost smacked me in the face. I was like, say what? But this is something that I had always known. It's something we all know, and we've all said it over and over again, but it just hit me in a new way. And it's crazy because, like, I've talked about it, but it just never hit me like it did before. In Genesis 1 and 26, that's where he says, let us make man in our image and in our likeness, right? But it wasn't until a little later that Adam was actually formed. So I was like, hold up. So in 26, you said this, but then other things still happened. And then later on, you brought Adam. And then I was like, hold up. But he came and he said, let there be this, let there be that, let there be this, and then you brought Adam. That meant everything that Adam needed for his life, everything that pertained to Adam's purpose was already existing before Adam's birth. Everything that Adam had, or everything that Adam would need to fulfill his purpose, was already on the inside of him when he was created. We don't see in the Bible not one single place where it says Adam went to school to learn ABC or one, two, three. We don't see anywhere in there that says he was taught this is how you're going to name the animals, because that was his responsibility. That's what he was told. And even, when it said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, it also referenced to Eve. So these things were known. There is no, what you need is inside of you. What now you truly need to do is to cultivate your faith, is to cultivate your self confidence, is to cultivate your self love, is to cultivate the belief that I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Greater is he who is on the inside of me than he who is in the world. No, nothing is going to hold you back at all. It's already in you. The problem is that sometimes we start looking on the outside so much. And we've had all these years of this negative programming from these people that have been in our life who were toxic and detrimental to our mental health, our emotional wealth, our psychological, financial, sexual, spiritual, just everything. And so at the end of the day, what happens? So we release those seeds. But when we release those seeds, we walk at the pace of grace and we lay hold of what we need: therapy, coaching, prayer, whatever it's going to take for you. Because our journey is all different and grace is going to be different for each one of us. Because guess what? Not one of our DNAs match or our fingerprints match. They're all unique. That means your path is gonna be different and it's gonna be specific for you. And it's perfectly fine. But just continue to be intentional about taking your path. Just continue to be intentional about walking out your walk. There is nothing about your life that is going to surprise God, or that has surprised God, or that's going to shock him, because he knows your thoughts while they're yet afar. So even when I'm like, listen, I'm about to go gangster up in here, in my head I'm thinking, he's like, sis, no, you're not, because I'm gonna come get you. He knows our thoughts. And so there's nothing for us to be ashamed about. And for many people, they will say things like, well, I don't know how to pray. I don't know how to talk to God. I just don't know. I feel so dirty because I've been in this situation or in this entanglement, and I just don't feel like I can come to him. Well, if you feel dirty, don't you have a bath? We're cleansed by him. Again, he doesn't care about your past. He already knew it, that this would be the path that you would take. And there was grace for that. His mercy was there for you. His love was still there for you. And so, again, nothing ever caught him off guard. But it's now up to you to take that next step and say, okay, I'm still going forward. And that is the ultimate. And it's not that we want to be petty. It's not that, hey, tit for tat. But that is the ultimate clapback. But what gets that narc or that devil even more is when you say, okay, now I know who you are. You've awoken, right? But now there's another level. That other level is awakening to the reality and the truth of who you are. You are a child of the Most High God. I will never stop saying this. When we're in these relationships, you don't feel like the royalty that you are. But even when you were laying when you were laying on the floor crying, when you were in these different situations, the narc that I was with was choking me, like strangling me. So even when he was strangling me, guess what? There was a crowd attached to my head. It didn't take away who I was. Your DNA is set in stone. You are royalty. It doesn't matter even when you don't feel like it. That crown is still attached to your head, whether you are a king or a queen. You got to remember who you belong to and what he says about you, because that is the only voice that matters. You got to get to the point where you're just cutting off the sound of the enemy. You got to cut off that voice, and to cut it off, you got to introduce a new voice. And sometimes it's just amplifying your own voice, because when they get into your head and they begin to just do that whole talk down verbal abuse and all this, and as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. You may start to believe that this is who that I am. You start to believe that, okay, I'm never going to amount to anything. I've got these kids. I've got too many kids, no job, no income. What can I expect? They said, what is going to come out of Galilee or Nazareth? Look what came out of it. um, that subconscious programming over and over again. It doesn't just start today. It starts at a real superficial level where I'm just joking until it's right straight up in your face. I'm going to kill you. I hate you. I can't stand you. You're the reason why we're in this situation. They tell you these things 24/7. Then we introduce sleep deprivation. We introduce triangulation, projection, all the discards, all the flying monkey, just everything in your mind. That was a seed they planted in your mind. That seed has been fed by all of the things that they were doing. And so now that seed, roots are forming. When those roots begin to form, that seed is getting life. It is growing, it is sprouting in your mind. Your mind is so powerful. Your mind is so incredibly powerful. And until you start attacking, or you not attacking, but you respond to what you've been through and the experiences with your mind. And what do I mean? That's where you may get the information because now you've planted a new seed. But now what you do with that information, you're feeding, you're watering, you're nurturing, you're fertilizing that seed. And then also what else is being said to you. That's why some voices need to be shut down completely. You got to turn down the volume on something. Some people can come with you to this part of your journey because they're just going to hold you up. And so, it's recognizing who and what is for you. Because as that seed grows, right? As those roots grow from your mind and that grow to your heart, your emotions. Now, once they're in your emotions, that person has more control over you. Just think of the roots coming from your head and the roots beginning to go down to your heart. So now they're infecting your heart with everything that they've said to you. Now that's going to frustrate your feelings. They're going to dictate your feelings. They're going to, change your feelings. And then now here you are going around with your head all down because you don't feel right. But guess what never fell off your head? That crown. It stayed on your head because it doesn't matter. Once he says that this is what it is, then that's just what it is. There is no shadow of doubt with him. He when he says it, his yes is yes and his no is no. His amen is amen. That's just what it is. And so once it affects your heart, it begins to spread right through you, your fingers, the things you might be typing, the things you might be, doing. You might be throwing hands, some of you, your feet. I mean, like that. Just think of that root continuing to spread through you, kind of like your blood flowing through you. So it's directing the path that you take and how you view relationships, how you view yourself, how you view just life. And so now that little seed that could have been as small as a mustard seed. In fact, let's make it a mustard seed because it starts off small, but the mustard tree is so big. But this is working in reverse. It's not working for your good, it's working against you. And so that's how aggressive your response needs to be. You've got to make sure that you feed yourself with the right things. And so, it's again at the pace of grace and really just being kind to yourself, but also being mindful that maybe if I stay in this, in this situation or continuing to focus on these things, I'm going to, trigger something with that seed. And so it's so important that you take those seeds that you carry and you let them go and you bury them. But when you bury them, right? Because the word tells us that we have the power to uproot. But when you uproot, what happens is you leave a vacuum, you leave a void, you leave something open. And it's going to be essential that you plant something in that spot. So take those seeds, plant them, and allow him to nurture them. Allow him to do whatever it is that you got to do. Because like I said to you, I gave him my seeds. I gave him all of those things. But what he gave me was peace. He gave me joy. He gave me hope. He gave me restoration. He gave me the joy of my salvation. He gave me faith. He made me bold. He gave me his love. He gave me his promise. He gave me his assurance. And I began to walk on those things, right? And it began to demonstrate, it began to flow in my life because it was going from my head. It affected my heart. And it also directed the course that I was taking. And the course that I was taking, because I felt so good, continued to pull me back to him. And as I continue to draw closer to him, he's like, okay, daughter, now this is what I want you to do. This is this, and purpose starts being revealed. But when your purpose and when, your whole attitude changes, it doesn't just affect you. And this is why it's so important that you awaken and that you arise to who he says that you are, that you arise to who you were called to be. Because once some things begin to break off of you, once some things begin to loose off you, it happens to those that are connected to you. It starts in your home with your children. They see, oh, mommy is happy, mommy is smiling, and something's different. And that joy transfers to them. So, with our kids, many times we may think, oh, I'm just going to go cry in the shower or whatever, and nobody's going to know. They know. They know because you didn't just you didn't just have those feelings when you stepped into the shower. You planned that shower and you planned that cry around the shower. They picked up on all of those emotions. But now, the anointing falls from the top to the bottom. And so now your joy, your peace, your love, your restoration, all of those things begin to flow on them. And even as you begin to walk at your pace of grace, allow them to set the tone for themselves so that they walk at their pace of grace, and be sure that you do what you can and you do everything that you can to give them the tools that they need so that they can continue to transition, because their journey may look like yours. I mean, it may be different from yours. I've shared with you, the story of what my son has been going through, and he has to go through this at his pace. Many times I want to be like, but son, this is who you are. I just want to say these things and hope that he would grasp it and it would be behind, that chapter of his life would be behind it. But there are lessons in that for him too. And so now my prayer when I pray for him is like, God, give him the strength to release those seeds to you. Give him the strength to understand that how he feels is a compromised version of, he's experiencing that from a compromised standpoint. It's not his authentic self. But God, as he continues to go through his healing, allow him to see who you say that he is. And that has been one of the biggest blessings ever, because you know what, he's starting to talk about future dreams. This is somebody who never smiled for months. I didn't see my kid smile forever. And now here he is talking about the things that he wants to do. I've been praying, God, speak to him and let him hear you. And he's, just starts saying things, that I know could only come from God. They're not coming from anybody else, but they're coming from God. And, I personally, and based on my own experience, believe in the power of prayer. And I believe that when we take everything, the knowledge that we gain on who they are, the knowledge that we get from therapy, counseling, coaching, whatever, and we take it and we couple it with what God says and with faith, what can't we do? What can't he do through us? Greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. You have got to remember that, listen, no matter what I go through, I'm going through. It's emotion. I'm just passing through. It's not your permanent station. It's not a permanent destination. You're just going to continue to go through. And, don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that that is part of the journey, but you are the one. You are more powerful than you think. And, sometimes it really feels like I just don't have the strength to kind of come out of this, but you got to remember that you are strong. You got to remember that you are, you are the game changer. You are going to be the answer to somebody's problem. You are going to be the chain breaker. You are going to be somebody who, in fact, you are going to be everything that God already knows that you are. And the crazy thing is that you already are that. You just have to come into agreement with that. You already are that. Adam was already equipped to do everything that he was called to do. So it didn't matter. Even when he messed up and they sinned, they still were who they were, who they were called to be. Didn't change that. They still played their role. And so you got to continue to see yourself like that. Continue to take that next step. Continue to believe in yourself, but walk at the pace of grace. Don't allow other people to dictate what that looks to you, but refuse to stay in a holding pattern. You got to continue to transition. You are not defined by narcissistic abuse. What they say to you is not your identity. In fact, they can't even comment about your identity because they don't even know their own identity. Everything that they show you is all projected. Everything that they do, it's all an illusion. The happiness that they exhibit, it's an illusion. It's not true. It's designed to take you down. It's designed to alter how you see yourself and how you experience your life. So you got to just keep your mind, focused on what the facts are. The facts are that everything on the other side, you don't want no parts of it because it's not going to take you to your prepared place. It's going to keep you stagnant. It's going to keep you in that holding pattern. And so, you got to be able to transition away from that. But I know I haven't been reading the comments because sometimes, like, I get distracted and then I just lose my chain of thoughts. Thank you so much, Marisco. I appreciate that. I appreciate your super chat. Um, but this is kind of what I want to share with you tonight so that you can keep your focus on moving forward and not getting stuck. When it comes to your awakening, I feel like, one thing that I thought is that, oh, I'm in an awakened state and that's it. And I know everything. No, sis, calm down. You don't. But there's levels to that. And so you've got to continue to avail yourself to hear what God says to you, to get to know yourself so that you can truly walk into the fullness of who you are. And that's going to, it's a lifetime process. Just the same way that we say that recovering from this is going to be a lifetime journey. And that's not to say that you're going to, always be in pain or things like that, but that it has different stages, and it has, it's just going to be a journey in itself. Um, I think I shared with you before how it was just random one day that I just got angry. And I had to go back and deal with, because I had never processed the anger from my childhood to say, I'm angry because these things happen and I'm angry at this and that. But I had to go back and acknowledge that so that I could shed that off. And that's just another seed that was planted. And so I'm anticipating something to grow in its place because now, I've emptied it and I've made room and I've made space. I've created space for that new wine. Can't pour new wine into old wineskin. And so, that's what you have to look forward to. A lot of the times we feel that because these relationships end, and for some people it's walking away from your family, it's walking away from your parents, your siblings, from some it's your children, and that's got to be hard. But it's also walking away from people that we have children with, and our children are walking away from that, and they may still be young and they can't fully comprehend what is happening. There's always going to be that pain that we feel sometimes when we have that separation. It feels like Velcro being ripped from your heart. It hurts. Just think about ripping Velcro off your heart. That hurts. But you know what? It's not going to last that way forever. It won't always be that way. But we look at it as the end. But I want you now to change the perspective. And it may not be easy, and it may be something that you make a commitment to consciously do every day. That, okay, this is not the end, but this is a beginning. Every time you have an end, there is a beginning. That's just what it is. When you see that as an end, consider this as a beginning, because we talk about we want to walk into new doors, but some doors have to close first. And so it's not the end, but rather this is a beginning. And this is a beginning to you getting closer to that heavenly version of yourself. This is a beginning of you beginning to see yourself the way God sees you. These are new opportunities for growth, development, for you now to get back to yourself, to do the things that you always wanted to do, but you couldn't do because we know in relationships with narcissists, you can do nothing. Everything has to be centered around them, from all your dreams being put on hold, all your goals being put on hold, everything, nothing matters. Whatever you want to do, whatever, it's what they need, what they want, that trump everything. But now here you are. You're at a new beginning. You're at a clean slate. You can start to write what you want. And it's really funny because it was in one of the moments where I was in so much pain, and I was just like, you know what, God, whatever, I'm just done. And he started saying to me, tell me, tell me how you feel about this situation. I'm like, first of all, you know all things. Why do you need me to tell you? And he was like, no, tell me. And okay, fine. And I just started speaking. I'm feeling hurt, and I'm feeling rejected, and I'm feeling disappointed. I feel like this will be my portion for life. I feel like I'll never have something better. I feel like, I'm drowning in this. God, I'm miserable. I can't believe that somebody would mislead me like this, or that they would lead me on and then do these things to me, or that, and I just started pouring it out. And he didn't even say anything. And I just went. And when I stopped, when I finally kept my mouth quiet, and I just felt like I had said everything that I had to say, there was just some silence for a minute. And then he started saying, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. I know every path that you will take. I know how you feel. I care about how you feel. That's why I asked you to tell me how you feel. And that was so important to me, because he said, that's why I asked you. Because we always say that he knows how we feel. The word says he knows our thoughts while they are yet afar. But here he was asking me to invite him into that moment where I would share from my own mouth, this is how I feel, even though he knew everything that I would say. But he said, how you feel is important to me. And you got to also take that for yourself. And when you feel like I can't take it anymore, when you start being triggered, this is how I'm feeling. And sometimes it's like, I really just don't know how I'm feeling, and I need you to assure me that I'm okay. I'm feeling confused, and I'm feeling like I'm under pressure, and I'm feeling like I can't make this decision. Whatever you're feeling, invite him into those moments, because he wants to be part of your life. He just doesn't want to rule over your life, but he wants to be part of your life. He wants to be part of your journey. He cares about those things. And so you've got to be able to say, listen, come into this moment with me, and let's talk. I want to share my feelings with you, because I promise you, I guarantee you, once you start that dialogue with him, he's going to respond and start feeding you with what you need to know. He's going to give you the things that will edify you, that will uplift you, that will build you, that will fortify you, that will help you take the next step. If I didn't start opening my mouth and saying how I felt, and I've just been like, whatever, you already know, and, being my raggedy self, I wouldn't have heard him say that I care about how you feel. Because when I got up, I kind of felt like, okay, I got the strength to go through this, because I'm not going through this alone. Even though you may feel like, okay, nobody's around, but I'm not going through this alone. He goes before me, he goes behind me, he goes beside me. And so I want to encourage you to continue to invite him into the moments of your life, and continue to just be honest with where you are. And even even after all of that, there was another level of discovery about, oh, okay, there is more to life. After narc abuse, sometimes we think that we just got to get out of the situation and understand the situation and get our own life going again at a steady state or a steady pace. But there is more to life than just, one foot in front of the other. And this is what it's about. It's about you continuing to evolve so that you grow, and you can, not just grow as age, but like as a person in experience, in love, in life. And I'm not necessarily talking about romantic love, but I'm talking about in love with you, in love with the reasons for your birth, in love with your creator, in love with your family, in love with who is already there for you, who is already there in your life, championing you, or encouraging you, should I say, as you continue to go forward. So it's important that you never ever forget those things. Don't ever forget those things, and don't ever, not acknowledge how you feel. I think most of the times when I start a video, I always say to you, like, hey guys, how are you doing? Are you nurturing your soul needs? Because remember, when the narc came into your life, they affected your mind, your emotions, your will. That was a soul injury. But now your soul needs to be fed positive things. You got to plant new seeds. And so that's just, another way of saying, are you planting a seed? Are you paying attention? Are you taking the time to say, self, how are you feeling? How am I feeling? What are my emotions? And even when you don't understand your emotions, it's okay to pause and try to, say, okay, I'm just going to have a moment by myself right now, or I'm going to do that one thing that I like to do, and just figure out what it is that I'm feeling, and be sure that you don't make decisions from an emotional standpoint, but you allow yourself to think through your decisions, or allow yourself to get to the place where you can actually trust that you're going to make the right decision that will benefit you in the long run. And I really want you to also consider that you don't also need to be jumping into another relationship, because not only do you, and I'm talking to the parents here, not only do you go into a relationship by yourself, but you invite your children into that relationship. No, I'm not saying that they're meeting the new guy or the new woman in your life immediately, but they get to meet the consequences of that relationship. They get to meet the day to day flow. When you're happy, they can sense it. When you're upset, they can sense it. If they never meet this person, and this person hurts you, they're going to know. They're going to walk through that healing process with you. And so one of my prayers has really been like, God, give me the wisdom, give me the patience to wait for somebody that is right, not just for me, but somebody who will love my children the way that I love them. And for somebody to love your children the way that they love you means that I'm going to honor who you are. And I'm not going to do things that would be detrimental to you, because I recognize that you're already a parent. I recognize that your children need you to be whole. Your children need you to be healthy. Your children need you to be in a right mindset. So somebody who truly cares about you, somebody who truly wants something with you, something real, is going to care about those things, because they've given these things thought. But that doesn't come from just anybody, because never forget the type of culture that we're in right now. We are in a whole narcissistic society, so they don't care about those things. And that's why you got to be patient. You got to ask for the grace to wait. You've got to ask for the wisdom before you start going out there. And when it's a no, it's just a no, and don't move, because you don't want to go through these things again. You don't want to take your children through those things again. So be patient with yourself and give yourself the time that you need, so that, we make better decisions. One way that they also win is when we say, well, I'm never going to date again. I'm never going to love again. That's ultimately makes the narc happy. That makes the enemy happy, because we come into agreement. So be careful what words you speak. Sometimes you may feel like it, but you may just be quiet. And I'm learning that part too. So just be quiet. Don't even say anything. Don't come into agreement with what is not for you. And sometimes we don't know, right? Some people say, "Well, I don't know if this is for me." Well, then, because you don't know, be quiet. Because if you knew, you wouldn't be saying, "Because I don't know." So let's just fall back for a minute until we really know, and then you can speak what you want. Your words are powerful. Your words have the ability to frame your world. Everything was like, let there be life. It was all spoken into existence. And so you can speak things into existence. You have the ability to bless your life or to curse your life. But I'm so convinced that, for so many people, this type of abuse has been generational. You've seen it, you saw it when you were growing up. And for the most part. Maybe our parents won't say it and we don't know, but maybe that's what they experienced. And so we want something, we want to set a different paradigm for our children, but not just our children, but our children's children's children. And so when we come into the consciousness of who we are, when we come into the state where we know this is who I am in Christ, this is who I am. I know who Joy is. I know the reason for her being here. You're gonna move differently. And what happens also, just coming into that awareness, you've broken something. And now if you continue to walk it out, you break that for generations, for the future generations. And it's important that you honor, continue to honor God as you walk forward. Because one thing that, and don't buy into this toxic society. Don't buy into what they're telling you. Because, listen, first of all, we know the word will tell us that, the sins of the father fall on the children, right? The sins of the forefathers. I'm paraphrasing here. We don't want to set new trends. And, it's so crazy because some people think I'm just gonna act anyway, right? I'm gonna treat people anyway because they say that I can do what I want. Society, culture, they'll tell you you can do whatever you want, but the whole time you are hurting people. You are playing with their minds. You are playing with their emotions. You're hurting people, right? But you're not just hurting people. You're hurting people that God is madly in love with. And so he doesn't, he's not a respecter of person. So he really doesn't care who you are, what your intention is. But you hurt my daughter. You hurt my son. And so now I'm going to just have to be fair, and I'm going to have to be just. And now the sins of the forefathers will fall in the future generations. So that means that maybe you will go skipping into the sunset, but let's see what kind of life the children that you have and their children, how will it look for them? Are we this selfish that you only consider your own needs? Or are you just that ignorant? And those are the things that you guys, you already know these things. And so it's now your decision to walk those things out. Sometimes we just don't know how to walk them out, but look, we serve a God who loves us so much that he will teach us. All you got to do is ask. And so, I'm going to go through these comments and see if there are any questions that I can answer. And so you got to excuse me. You got to forgive me because I've been talking for so long. Um, See, right here, they get you involved in third, fourth, and fifth party situations. And it is so true. It is so, so true. And when you know who you are and know your worth, there's nothing or anyone can say to bring you down. Exactly, because you're walking in the consciousness of who God says that you are, and what can come against that? Nothing. If God before me, if God before you, who can be against you? Absolutely nobody. And so you continue to walk. You continue to walk that out. Um, yep. You know, Thank you so much for saying this. The devil couldn't kill me. He didn't even slow me down. And sometimes when I get in the role and I'm like, you know what? He should have taken me out when he had a chance, because now I'm awake. Now I'm in the full consciousness of who I am. Now I'm ready to walk out my purpose. I'm ready to do these things. You should have just taken me down when you had that chance, because greater is in me than who is in the world. You have the power to tread upon serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy. Nothing shall by any means hurt or harm you. That is your promise. And it's crazy because, the enemy still does not accept that at the end of the day, he's the ultimate loser. And that's just how delusional they are. They think that they can do whatever they want to whomever they want and get away with it. But that's just not how it works. We wake up. We awaken to the fullness of who God says that we are, and we just move different. And it's no hate in our hearts. We keep our hands and our hearts clean, right? And we continue to move forward because we have to do that. We've got to, and when we release those seeds, it's also asking, show me, because this is something new for me. Show me who I'm going to be. Show me how you want me to be. so that I can walk this thing out. You know, I'm gonna end in just a minute, but one thing that I want to do before I do end tonight's discussion with you is actually pray with you. Again, I believe in prayer, and we do this here anyway. This is part of what we do. So it would be awkward to not end tonight with in prayer. But I just want to say to you that yes, life happens, and it can really just feel like this is going to take me out and it's going to knock me down, and I just don't see my way out. But there is always a way out. The end of that relationship, the end of that situation signified the beginning of something new. And sometimes, even though we've walked away from the narc, and you got to understand that to the narc, or to the enemy, that narc was you were their assignment. They were trying to take you down in your mind, in your emotions, in your will, in your soul. A soul injury is something that is so, it's traumatic, it's devastating, and it's also difficult to overcome. I said difficult, but it's not impossible. There is nothing impossible with God. And so I encourage you to continue to release your seeds, plant them, and allow Him to come and do the nurturing. Allow Him to come and do what He does. Allow God to be God. I encourage you with everything in my heart. Don't look at what they're doing, and sometimes that is going to be your prayer. Listen, it was my prayer. God, close my eyes, turn my face away from that so that I don't see, because that's what the narc wants you to do, is to go back and look so that you can see what they're doing, and then be triggered, and then be disappointed, and go back to square one. But we're not doing that. We're moving forward. We're pressing towards a mark of a call of a higher calling of God in Christ Jesus, right? Old things have passed away. Behold, all things are made new. So that is old. That situation is old. It's going to begin again. God is going to do something new in your life. And it starts with you. And the moment that you actually end that situation, or the moment that situation actually ends, that's the moment that you've been waiting for. That's when you actually walk into your new beginning. And so, even in the midst of your sorrow, in the midst of your pain, in the midst of the devastation, you have a God who wants to know. He wants to hear from you, because there are strategies that He wants to give to you so that you can continue to transition in life. The strategies that He's going to give you are going to help you take all the shambles, all the discouragement, all the disappointment, all of those negative emotions, and He's going to show you what to do with them, how to structure your new beginning so that you can move forward. And when you move forward, it's a sign, it's an announcement to the kingdom of darkness that what? No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Like, man, you should have taken me out when you had a chance. When you come into the fullness or the revelation of who you are, when you awaken, nothing can stop you. And the important thing is that there are people, whether it is your family members, whether it is the things, your purpose or your call, whatever that is, all of that awaits you. And it's so crazy, because once you actually really, really give in and yield, and, go through the process so that you can heal, you're going to come out on the other side. And, healing is a journey. There is no destination where you say, okay, I'm fully healed. It's just that journey that is going to go on. But when you allow yourself to go through the process, you're going to pick up strength. You're going to gain stamina. You're going to gain insight. You're going to gain wisdom. So you're picking up what you need as you continue to walk towards where you're going. And it's okay, again, at the pace of grace. Your journey doesn't have to look like anybody else's. It is your journey, and it is just as unique as you are. There are some things that, God knows all things about us. And I think sometimes when I look at my life and the places where I experience the most pain and how it affects me, and it really speaks to, I guess, my nature, or my nature overall. He never gives us more than we can bear, right? But it really, it never gives us more than he can bear, because he is our strength, he is our source. And so, when I, like I was saying, when I just look at my own experiences and how how I get hurt in some areas, he knows what to do to me, and he knows when to pull me out of situations because of maybe just the way my heart is set up, right? And so when he pulls me back, because some things may hurt me that might not hurt somebody else, but when I get that pain, he knows that this is what's going to draw my daughter to me. So there may be things that you will experience that I may just be like, you know what, this ain't even that serious. But to you, it just is, because he knows that's your pain point. And he's going to use that to draw you back to him. And when you're drawn back to him, we got to sit at his feet and allow him to do the work that's going to heal us, that's going to restore us, that's going to help us continue to transform and move forward. Just allow yourself, the time that you need to do these things. There is no rush. Take your time and let God be God. That's so important, that you would let God be God. So before we close out tonight, and I'll be back next Sunday, I'm back for real now. I'm trying to think of doing like maybe a morning session, like maybe on a Friday, maybe a Q&A. And so, yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. So we can just chat some more. I really, one thing, like during the time I was off, I really was like, I can't go back on, because I don't want to just, focus on the narcissist. I don't want to just do these things, but I want to be effective in how I help you, see yourself. Because you can go to any channel and you can see information about the narcissist, and that's, it's information about them. But I want you to see you, because when you see you, who they are and what they do is not going to matter. I want you to see you, and I want to be able to connect on a more intimate level with you, so that I hear your hurt and I hear your pain, and oh, this is what you need, and so this is the conversation that we're going to have. Because I don't want you to miss your moments. I don't want you to stay in any holding pattern that you don't belong in. Life is waiting for you. And so, I want you to just get so hungry for, I want you to get so hungry for your promise, that you're like, listen, my eyes are so off this narcissist, because I've had enough. I know everything there is about projection and triangulate. So, and it's a journey. Sometimes we need that information. I just want to be a different voice to encourage you in a different way. I want to be there just to always shine the light back on you, so that you see yourself. I want you to see that no matter what happened to you, no matter what was spoken to you, you are powerful. You are powerful because you are the child of the King. And the very things that he said, let us make men in our image and in our likeness, that there alone says that you are a creative force, that you can use your words to change things, that when you show up on the scene, demons must tremble because of the God who is in you, that when you open your mouth, there will be fire in your mouth that will burn to ashes every lie that was ever spoken of you over you, because you are a creative being, because greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world, because of who you were formed and fashioned. And first of all, my friends, you were fashioned and formed in divinity. You were a whole thought on God's mind. Like, listen, he did not stop. He did, when he said, I'm going to make this whole universe, I'm going to make earth and everything, but I really need narc free living to be part of the equation. I really need Shay Love to be part of my mission for earth. I really need Brown T and Mark Shelton and Uniquely Made. I need all of my sons and daughters. You are on his mind for a reason. Your reason and the reason for your existence awaits you. Your reason. Sometimes we think that, hey, I've arrived, when he just says to you, no, you know what? I got more for you, my son. This ain't even it. This was just a warm up. This is just a precursor to where I'm taking you, because I can't just take you to where I'm taking you like that, because it might shock you. And so this is your training ground. And so, you got to remember who you are. Before he formed this world, before he laid the foundations of this universe, he said, I know exactly who Shay Love is. She is my daughter. She is a queen. I'm going to place this crown on her head, and I'm going to crown her royalty because she is mine. And so it doesn't matter what demon comes against her. It doesn't matter what lies are thrown against her. It doesn't matter what weapons are thrown at her. It doesn't matter what fiery darts come my way. She is ferocious. She is fearful. She is incredible. She is more than a conqueror. She can do great things. She will do exploits in the name of Jesus because she is my daughter, and I know everything that I have put in her. I know the reason why I created her. And so she has everything that she needs to not just sustain her, but to sustain the generations that are following her, to sustain the generations that will come after her. And this is how intimately he knows you. So he doesn't play with you. So when you start listening to people out there talking about you do this and you do this, and you go ahead and you act like a whole option, and you act like an afterthought, or you come into agreement with this foolishness called narcissist, no, that was never his design for your life. It may be training ground at the end of the day, but that had nothing to do with your design. It had nothing to do with your character. It had nothing to do with your purpose. Those were people who God covered you from so that they would never see who you are. Because if they really saw who you are, they would have looked at you differently, and maybe they would have kept you longer. Maybe they would have actually killed you. Maybe they would have done whatever they could to drown you so that what God has on the inside of you cannot come forth. But look at them. That's why I said he should have killed me while he had a chance. He should have taken you out while he had a chance. But now we are here in the fullness of who God made us to be, walking towards that heavenly version. So I just want to, encourage you, keep going forward. Sometimes it's a day at a time. Sometimes it's an hour at a time. Sometimes it's a moment by moment thing. You continue to walk at the pace of grace. That is what you have to do for yourself. And so I'm gonna pray before we go out. And like I said, I will be back. Maybe I'll come in on Friday morning to do a Q&A, and then I'll be back on next Sunday. But for today, I wanna I wanna pray before we end tonight. And so, Father, in the name of Jesus, we come before your throne, God, just giving all honor to you. Father, we invite you into this moment, and we just call upon you because you are the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. You're the author and the finisher of our faith. And Father, we invite you here because we don't want to do this life without you. You are an excellent God. You're a wonderful God. You're an all-knowing, all-seeing, marvelous God. And we thank you, God, that you've given us each other to do life with, that we can edify, inspire, and uplift and encourage one another in our journeys. God, you know your children who are watching on this live. You know those who are coming after. You know each and every one of their needs. You know each and every one of their desires. God, I pray that right now, wherever they are, your spirit would fall afresh on them. That God, you would anoint them with what they need in this moment. That Father, that they would no longer be bound by the shackles of their past. They would no longer be bound by the lies of the enemy, that sickness would break off of them in the name of Jesus, that depression would leave them, oh God, that their fear, that they would unseat fear from the throne of their hearts. Because God, we've placed so many things on the throne of our heart: fear, anger, bitterness, rejection. They've all had an opportunity to sit at the throne of our hearts. And so, God, first things first, we repent for allowing those things to take place and, to take precedence over you in our lives. And we ask that you would forgive us for those things, God. And we invite you now to sit on the throne of our hearts, because there is nothing that matters more to us than being one with you and being at peace with you. God, I bring my brothers and sisters before you. I ask, oh God, that you would just touch them now. I pray that in this moment that you would give them the peace that surpasses all understanding. I ask in the name of Jesus that even as they arise and they go about their days and they do whatever it is that they do, that you would just cover them, that you would protect them. God, so many are asking questions like, why did this have to happen to me? I pray that you give them peace over that why. I pray, God, that they would no longer ask why, but Father, that you would turn their attention to ask questions like, okay, so now that this has happened, what do I do with what has happened? I pray, God, that every seed that is released, every seed of that is contrary to their peace, you would begin to restore to them. Father, we know you to be a healer, a restorer. We know you to be a redeemer. And so, Father, I thank you that even now you are being all of those things and so much more to each and every one of them, God. Some are walking into something new that they've never been in before. And so I'm asking that you teach them how to walk in these moments. Some don't know who they are, but I ask that you would show them who you know that they are, and that you would help them walk to become that heavenly version of who you say that they are. Lord, I pray that you would give them their children peace, that you would comfort them, that you would make resources available to them for the very things that they need. Lord, I know that, there is nothing impossible for you. And I just ask that as you continue to watch over your sons and your daughters, that they would be able to hear you, that they would no longer feel that they're not good enough to come to you, but they would come running to you with whatever is on their minds, that they would invite you into the moments of their lives so that they can share. I pray, God, that you would give them a fresh anointing, because it is the anointing that destroys yokes. I pray that you would give them wisdom so that they could make decisions that would edify them. I pray, God, that you would give them a discerning spirit. So wherever they go to seek help, to seek information, to listen, that they would know what is for them and what is not for them. I pray, God, that you would make them skillful in the spirit. I pray that you would awaken that inner man, that the inner man would be sharp, and that would be when they're asleep, they're going forth, or their inner man is going forth and interceding even as they sleep, oh God. I pray that you would bring them to a new revelation of who you are, and that they would walk closer to you, because God, there is nothing that our hearts desire more than to be one with you and to be closer with you. So, Father, thank you. Thank you that you have given us to each other. And I pray, God, that even as we leave this life, that we're not leaving your presence, but God, we're just saying goodbye until next time. But I pray that their week would be productive. I pray that their week would bring them joy. I pray that their week would be filled with peace. I pray that they would no longer stress over old things, but God, they would rest in the fact that you are the God who makes all things new. God, I'm asking that you would bring radical change in their mind, dismantle everything that is not of you. I'm asking that you would go in and deconstruct the falsehoods that have been put before them, and that you would begin to construct your truth in their minds, your truth in their heart, that nothing would no longer be able to take them out of their position in you, that they would know for sure that they are seated in heavenly places in Christ Jesus, and everything that they would do, they would seek from a position of above, that they would know that they are the head and not the tail. So we even now cancel every tailish thought, every tailish activity, every tailish connection, God. Even as you begin to shift people and move people away from them, they would no longer wonder why, but they would say, okay, God, thank you. I know you're in control. And even though it hurts, you're a great comforter. So I ask that you would embrace them in those moments, God. And I thank you that you are faithful, that you love them more than anything, that you love them more than anybody on earth could. And so whatever you do, we trust you. And we just turn our hearts over to you and say, have your way in and through our lives. We offer ourselves to you as a living sacrifice by the shed blood of Jesus. God, do great things in their lives. Cause them to be able to say, this is why I had to survive these things, because this is what God called me to do. And that they would bring, that they would walk out their purpose, and just know that, there was no waste experience. Or there was no waste experiences, because you took everything and you used it to help them grow. You used it to show them who they are, and to show them your strength as well as their strength. So God, even for the times that we felt devastated, and even for those who are feeling devastated now, we speak grace over those situations, and we speak healing and strength, and hold on to you, the author and the finisher of our faith, and just declare our undying love for you. I thank you for all that you do in the name of Jesus. Amen. All righty, friends. It's time to say goodnight. I thank you so much for joining me. I really missed hanging out with y'all. Hey, Shannon. It's good to see you. Hey, Miss Phillips. Thank you so much. Hey, Auntie Karen. and Shay and Little Birds. Thank you so much. Thank you, Danny. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your Sunday night to hang out with me. And I look forward to connecting with you and chatting with you again next Sunday. So, you know what? Don't forget, be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like somebody you love. Because guess who's listening? Yourself. So, people, continue to, just be great. And also, for those of you who don't know, um, Narc Free Living, that's Shannon, is hosting her clubhouse on Tuesday. And if you need an invitation to join the clubhouse, like listen, I go to her rooms and I love being in her rooms. Hers is the only room that I've been in on Clubhouse. And I don't really, I don't think I'll go to another one unless, it's one of the people she recommends. But that is such an environment. There's so much healing that takes place in that room. And it also brings that environment of intimacy that I was talking about, because you can use your voice and say, this is what I'm going through. And you have moderators, you have people who are actually walking through those things too. And Shannon, can you please put the number that they can text if they need an invitation? But her website is narcfreeliving.com, and you can connect with her if you are not already. But I highly encourage you, especially if you are going through some pain right now and you want to connect with somebody. This is one of the best ways for you to do it, because that room, I mean, you go into the room and you just sense the presence of God. That's because there is so much prayer that goes in there before this even happens. And throughout the week, just leading up to that moment. And I'm telling you, there is so much healing in there. And I highly encourage you, like, if you are not coming there, please do join. It's on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you're Eastern, it's 8. If you're Pacific, it's 5. But Narc Free Living, you can find her on Instagram. narcfreeliving.com is her website, and you can connect with her that way. And please, please join us in the clubhouse. And another thing that I didn't mention before, your girl wrote a book. I wrote a whole book. And I'm excited about this book, Fearless, the Relentless Pursuit, because I wanted to provide, again, I want to focus on your life going forward. But before I can focus on your life going forward, we also have, there's also opportunities for you to address your past and to transition, because I called it Fearless, the Relentless Pursuit. And I brought fear to the forefront because I feel like hopelessness is one of the biggest tragedies of our time. When we lose hope, then what do we have? I remember being hopeless. When I was hopeless is when I was trying to kill myself. And not that I was trying, I took the steps to actually do it. It's a miracle. And when I tell you, I know sometimes it becomes cliche, I should be dead and in my grave, but that is my truth. With just the things that I did to not wake up. But I'm here. And I recognize that I survived so that I could be a testimony for you. I survived so that you can see that look what God can do. And so here I am. And I'm telling you, you can survive. And so when I talked about fearless, I introduced hope, and I introduced the message of hope, because it's hope that gives us something to hold on to for tomorrow. But then it wasn't just about hope, but then I started giving strategies on continuing to become that heavenly version of yourself. How do I revolutionize my life? How do I move from this state of insecurity? How do I move from this state of just not knowing who I am? How do I turn down the voices of people in my head? How do I set goals for my life? From goal setting to seeking opportunities, and just that thing. It's I didn't even focus on the narc because I want you to see you. I want you to see everything that God says that you are, and how to get to that version of you. And this is what that book is really about. It's about transitioning to your most significant state. And, it comes out on the 27th, so it's just 16 days away. And I'm like nervous and excited, but it's happening. And so, it's my hope that, you get it. And not because I want it, I want you to get it, but I want you to walk into that state. I want you to be able to say, you know what? That devil tried it, but look at me now. I'm still standing. And not only am I standing, but I'm becoming, and I will continue to become, because there are strategies that you can continue to employ over and over and over again. Because every time you reach a certain level, and you could really say, oh, I made it. But like, if you feel like I made it, no, you just got to a new floor. You just now at base level again, and it's time for you to rise again. And that's not to say that we're just going to rise in, finances or those type of things, but rising in, in who God says that you are. Because if you reach the level, then He's going to take you out. It's going to be good night, we'll see you in the morning. But you're here. That means there is more. And there's more for you to tap into. Another thing that I talked about in the book is like, society and culture. Like, listen, I'm so over it with society and culture. I'm just through. Society and culture will dictate your success based on what they can quantify as being, visibility. Visibility means nothing. You can be visible, like, look, I'm visible here, but if I'm not doing anything that will help you grow and evolve and become something better, then I've done nothing. My life has no impact. And so if we're looking at success and visibility as the ultimate thing, you're never going to live a significant life. You can be successful, but not be significant, or never achieve a level of significance. But if you achieve that level of significance, which is not where your purpose comes in, you will be successful at everything that you do. And your significance is not just tied to you. This is the significance that lasts generations. And we begin to break those curses at that point. We've set the tone for new generations that are coming after us. And this is where you leave your mark on the earth. You are now bringing legacy forward. Success, and I'm not even here to badmouth success, but success is going to be great for a lifetime, possibly, because sometimes success goes, right? He gives, He takes away. Sometimes you can lose that success. But when you achieve a level of significance, it's a different ball game. And so we're not pursuing success. It's significance. And that's that heavenly version of who God says you are. Because in that state, you're fully restored to His image. And that's where our productivity is. It's your sweet spot. And you know what? A sweet spot, here we go again. She's talking. Your sweet spot is like finding your place in Eden. The Garden of Eden is really known, or when it's translated into its original language, it means sweet spot. Because in that sweet spot, Adam and Eve had everything that they needed. So when you get into that sweet spot, there is everything that you need right there. And that is where your significance comes from. That is where you are going to just be that trailblazer, that legend, that a person that is going to set the mark and the tone for the generations that are connected to you. And if we continue to just think that life is just about us and not about who we are leaving, in our family and those type of things, then we miss the mark completely. Your life has to mean more than just getting up and going to work and, okay, I can pay the bills and I can do this and I can take a vacation, so I'm successful. No, that's it's low level thinking. We got to elevate, we got to rise, we got to level up, and we got to think about what we are going to do, the legacy that we are going to leave for those that are behind us. And it also starts in how we speak to ourselves, because ourselves will show up in the world, and how we show up in the world is also going to reflect on those that are watching us, not just our children, but nieces, nephews, our children's children, people who you don't even know are watching you. And so it's important that we continuously make an effort to become, and seek significance over success. So I held you so much longer than I planned to, but I really thank you for being here with me tonight. I truly appreciate your time, and I love all of you. And I look forward to hanging out with you next Sunday. So please take care of yourself, talk kindly to yourself, and, be good to yourself, and God bless you.